Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fibre Mates. My name is Gay. I'm a tech editor and avid knitter based in Melbourne, Australia, and this is my channel where I interview mainly individuals who are involved in the wool craft industry in Australia. Before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm recording, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. Let's see. Today we have a different format for you. You're just getting me. I thought I would sit down and talk to you about some of the projects I've been working on the last couple of months, some of the finished objects and works in progress, and some of my knitting plans. So we'll start that traditional format with what I'm wearing. This is a beautiful piece. It is the honeycomb shawl by Andrea Mowry, and I've knit this in Great Ocean Road Labella, their alpaca merino blend, and it is so cozy, which is amazing for today because it's really cold here in Melbourne. We're having quite a cold snap. It feels very wintry. I think it was 11 degrees when I went out this morning, so it's very nice to have some knits to snuggle up to when it's starting to get this chilly. We're still in summer. Anyway, now on to the finished objects. My first finished object has already been gifted, but I can insert a picture. It is the Avery blanket by Deborah Kinsey. This was such a fun project to knit. The first thing about it that was fun was selecting colors. Now, I've knit this blanket for a neighbor who's had neighbors, two people who have just welcomed their first child into this world. She is gorgeous. And the first really fun thing about this project was picking the colors. There's options in the pattern to do this as a 5-color blanket, like my version, or you can go wild with the colors. The stripes do not use a huge amount, so this could also be a really good project for stash busting. The options are limitless, but I've made mine with Heirloom Merino Fleck that I purchased from Maker, my local yarn shop, and I've used sorry about the crinkling, but I've used this brown, kind of more natural. There's only color numbers. So this brown is shade 6524. And then my contrast colors were this burgundy. And then I chose a green. My project bag is a mess. I need to sort through my scraps and stash here so I can use these yarns for more projects, which I do have plans for. So the burgundy, the green, and then I went a bit more traditional baby pink. So I knew the gender of the baby. She is a female. Where's the last color here? This dark blue, which is just a beautiful color. Here. This yarn is fairly certain it's a non-superwash because it requires hand washing, which I know isn't super practical for a baby blanket, but I thought the colors worked really well together. I loved how the brown, this main color brown, is in each of the contrast colors through the flecks, and I think it made a stunning blanket and they loved it. So what else do I want to talk about this blanket? Well, I'll talk more about blankets a little bit later on when we talk about acquisitions. Now, if you follow along with the podcast, you'll know that I have developed an obsession with knitting socks. I love knitting socks, and I have numerous books on knitting socks. So I've decided to focus on one of them, which is the 52 Weeks of Socks by Lina Publishing. Here it is. And what I thought I would do is basically just start at the beginning and work my way through it. Why not? I knit on socks almost every day on my commute to and from work, and it's just I think socks are a really easy portable project. They're handy to have in your bag. They don't take a huge amount of yarn, and I find them really fun. And there's literally endless constructions. I mean, two main ones, right? Cuff down or toe up, although we've been seeing more modular construction for socks, which I think is exciting. But there's all different ways to do heels and stripes and incorporating textures, and that's what the textures was what really excited me about this pattern and why I've started with this book. So my next finished object is the Intersections Socks by Marceline Smith. So here it is in the book. It's the first pattern. And here they are. Pull them out from under my pile here. But aren't they beautiful? That's the one I did properly. The pattern was really easy to memorize. And even for me, the one thing I really learned in this project is actually reading the pattern, because these are toe up construction, and I read incorrectly the number of stitches that you needed to cast on for the toe. So I've got one toe that's a normal width, and then I have another toe that's a bit pointier, but they fit and they're fun. I didn't realize I had done that for a while after. Anyway, they do need a block. I haven't worn them yet because it's been so warm, but I could pop them on today because it's really chilly. So I think I will wear these later and then give them a bath, and get the stitches will even out a bit more once they're blocked. The yarn is a really interesting yarn that I picked up at the Marybeck Yarn Show last year. It's from Melbourne City Dyeworks. The colorway is shell, but what makes the yarn really unusual is its blend. So it's a blend of 80% merino non-superwash and 20% Lincoln strong wool, which is not a blend that we see here very often. It is, well, it's not, super fine superwash merino, but I think this is going to make a really good kind of tough sock. And look what I have left over after the entire pair of socks. So I don't have small feet. I think I'm a US size 9 or a 39 or 40 European size, and I have literally, I haven't weighed it, but it's probably half the skein left. So this yarn, the yardage goes a really long way. I enjoyed working with it. It was easy to knit with, and the socks are beautiful. So really looking forward to wearing these. And In terms of inspiration, I think looking at the resources you have to hand. So I've had this book for probably 2 or 3 years now, if I had to guess, and it's the first pattern that I've knit and finished. I have started another pattern. It's another topic for another episode, but didn't finish. And I'm actually really looking forward to creating all of the socks there. It's, let's see, we're running out of space here. The next pattern in line is also equally beautiful. And it's called Avena, and it has these gorgeous, I'll just go like that, dip stitches. Yeah, there. Looking forward to working my way through this. Book, but also interspersed with other socks that I want to make as well. So no pressure, not planning on doing a pair every week. It's just working my way through as and when I am able to. Right. What's next? What else have I finished? Yes, this bad boy here, which is my, oh, it's inside out. Whoops. You can see what it is already, right? It's my Staffin sweater by Rebecca Clow. I did this as a test knit at the end of last year, and it's a fantastic pattern. I really enjoyed knitting it. The sections are quite doable. None of them are really that long, and I think for that reason it's very Moorish. You just want to keep going to finish this section, this section, this section. It's a really quick knit. But what was really special for me is the yarn that I used on this. This is Fibre Arts Shed Yarn over Yarn, which is 50% cheviot and 50% reclaimed mill fiber. When I first sat down to swatch with this yarn, I was like, oh, I'm not sure. It's looking a bit stringy. I don't know if this is gonna meet gauge. And of course, when you're doing a test knit, it's really important that you meet gauge so that you can give the designer accurate measurements of your finished garment. But I blocked my swatch, and this yarn blooms like nobody's business. It filled in any of the spaces. I'm quite a loose knitter, so I was worried that it wouldn't fill in the gaps. It did, and it also really softens up. The texture on this, as you can see, is really outstanding. The texture, the stitch patterns really show up. The one thing I didn't do very well was the neck pickup. The instructions weren't specific about the total number of stitches, and I picked up, I think, just a few too many. What you would really need to do is count the number of stitches along the neckline and the back of the neck, and make sure that you pick up only that amount. There were specific numbers, if I recall correctly in the pattern, specific numbers to pick up over the shoulder parts. But also, that said, I'm considering frogging this because my plan for this yarn had been a plain cardigan, and I've been loving working with yarn held with like an alpaca suri, and I don't know, seeing the colors in this yarn, I'm wondering if it's kind of lost on the texture. What do you think? Do you think I should frog it and make the cardigan of my dreams and then make another Staffin later on? Or should I leave it? I definitely have to redo the neck in any event, right? Because it's just this wacko. Just, if I put it on, you would see it kind of just stands up on its own. But I mean, I could wear it as it is. It's more like a mock, kind of a mock turtle look. But yeah, just trying to think, what will I wear most, right? Because you really want to wear your knits all the time. I'll give it some thought. Anyway, I thought about frogging this as well, this shawl, and making a sweater out of it because it used so much yarn that I could have a sweater. And this labella, if you've not knit with it before, put it on your dream knit list. It's incredible. It's incredibly soft. It's, oh, anyway, sorry, I digress. Back to Staffin. This, the other thing about yarn over yarn is that it is literally like loaves and fishes yarn. Like it just keeps, that yardage just keeps coming. It's 200 meters, but it feels like you could knit forever with it and not change skeins. The yardage that I used was significantly less than what the pattern required as well, and that's the other thing. If I had known that I would have had enough yarn, I would have made a size up, I think, because you know I love that boxy, like a boxier sweater fit. And yeah, in fact, I had messaged Claire when I started this test knit. I said, oh, I'm not quite sure if I'll have enough. Do you have any more? And she had a little bit more of a color that I think would have been similar and did offer to send it to me. But ultimately, I ended up having enough to do the entire sweater, and I think I had almost a whole skein left over. So I probably could have knit this bigger size. Anyway, it's okay. But choices. We'll have some choices to make about this. What do you think? Fix or frog? All right. The Staffin sweater. Pattern I think is really easy to follow. I would recommend using the stitch markers definitely to mark the pattern. And yeah, it's a fabulous sweater, and I think will be a really good wardrobe staple in your closet. Should we move on? Because that's all my finished objects for the last couple of months. I think that's enough. There's been, well, I've got some pretty progressed WIPS as well, so you'll see where my knitting time has been going. And I've also got one that I'm not showing today that I might wait until it's done to give the update on it. We'll see how long it takes me to get back to it. Now for WIPs. My next WIP is inspired by the knit along that I'm running with Karina Moore from Louie and Lola Yarns this year, which is the Love Local. And the premise of it is to use yarns from local producers or local indie dyers or even local yarn shops to knit patterns that are by designers who are based in or from Australia or Australia and New Zealand. And there's so many that we have a Ravelry group where there's saved searches, so you can just if you have access to Ravelry, you can quickly go in there and look at the search. You can also filter a Ravelry search yourself by designer location and get lots of local inspiration, because we have incredible design talent in Australia and New Zealand, and we really should be supporting that. Anyway, if you have projects that qualify, you can also We're running the Cal on Instagram, so if you use the hashtag lovelocal or with a K or lovelocal with a C, love local, for your crochet projects, because it's, while my focus is mainly knitting, I'm not a crocheter in any way, shape, or form. We do spread the love to all of those wonderful crochet designers that we have here as well. So my first WIP is the Calitris tee by Jessica Gore, who is, I believe, on Instagram as the Sweater Collective. And this has been really fun. It's the first time I've done a V-neck raglan, so a raglan that starts flat and then is joined in the round. And the really fun thing about this raglan is the detail on these stitches on the edges. I'm at the point now where I'm just knitting on the body, but it has these garter stitch panels on the sides, which are really fun, and I think will add some nice shape to the t-shirt as well. The raglan details continue on either side of those panels, so the design's really clever. The pattern is very clear, it's clearly written, and I'm thoroughly enjoying knitting this t-shirt. T-shirts were our theme for January, and yeah, I know it's end of February now, but I'm not quite done. But I've had some other projects come into my life that needed to take priority over this one, but it will come back into high rotation. I really want to finish it. It's my first time ever knitting in cotton, so that's been another first for this project, and this cotton is so soft. The yarn is by Amano yarns. It's called Sami. It's 100% Peruvian Pima organic cotton. There's no colorway, but it's 1819 is the color number, but it is this incredible bright pink, which I love. And let's see, I got it from Maker, again, my local yarn shop. And what else can I say about it? It's soft, it has beautiful drape, as you can see from this garment. That's I just really can't wait to have this done. Hopefully we'll get some more warmer days ahead, and I'll be able to wear it once or twice before winter kicks in for real. Anything else about this one? I don't think so. Anyway, Calitris tee by Jessica Gore, Sweater Collective. Let's see, we'll put this back over here. I'm super excited about this next WIP because first off, it's a design made by one of my really good friends, Kath Martin. And so you know it's socks. It's in this cute sock bag by Sean's Yarns that I picked up at Bendigo, the Australian Sheep and Wool show last year. This pattern is super cute. I'm fixing a really, really bad mistake that I made. As I was talking about before, I do all my sock knitting on the tram. And I was weaving in the ends and I accidentally snipped a non-woven in end, like quite close to where the yarn, it was at least the start of the yarn, but I'm gonna have to go through and magic knot it. Anyway, look at these. How fun. Sorry, that one's not woven in yet. It's a WIP because I've only done one sock, but these are called the Apple Isle socks. They are currently only available to people who are signed up for the Bombed Yarns Sock of the Month Club, or monthly sock club, that Sarah's running all year. If you recall, the Alma socks, which were my first pattern designed in collaboration with Susanna Kartinen, were the January socks, and Kath's Apple Isle socks are the February socks. So these start with a pip of color at the top, and then have these really, they're ribbed, and then have these really fun contrast color stripes. Now the pattern does only have, I think, 3 stripes. You can make them all in one color, in 3 different colors, or like I've done in alternate colors. And then I've also gone on to extend the leg of the sock. And then the heel, just like a lot of Kath's patterns, there's options. So this is a shadow wrap heel, and I think there's also an option for a traditional heel and or gusset and heel turn. And then ribbing down the front of the sock, and then the contrast color toe. And you can always make them in one color too if you wanted to, because the texture will really show these garter, this garter pattern at the top. The yarn. The yarn is Louie and Lola. It's their, you may have seen it, it was their 5th, I think it's 5th birthday colorway that they had on special. That was a set with this beautiful variegated speckled yarn and the 2 bright neon pops of color. Birthday Cake, I think, is the name of the color. Anyway, it's knitting up beautifully. I do need to fix these desperately, and then I'll get on to making the second sock. My next WIP also has is in collaboration with Karina from Louie and Lola and Susanna Kartinen, and that is this, which is my EXP sweater. 2 years ago, I think we ran a Santa sweater cal where I've already made one of these, and Karina wanted one for a sample, so people could see them at the Australian Sheep and Wool, the Australian Yarn Show, which is happening in Canberra in just a couple of weeks, probably about a week after this, maybe 2 weeks after this episode airs. And I said to Karina, sure, I can make you one of those in time. So I have literally been knitting on this monogamously for, I think about 3 weeks now. And I have finished the body. It does still obviously need to be blocked, so that fisherman rib texture will come out once it's, I think the pattern calls for it to be blocked aggressively, which sounds to me like you can take your aggressions out on your knitting, which, you know, could help. And I'm onto the first sleeve now. So I'm hoping to finish this in the next few days so I can get it blocked and off to Karina in time for the show. So if you are going to attend the show, you'll be able to see it in person. The yarn is amazing. So the base yarn is this beautiful charcoal, and that's coming out pretty true to color. It is a 100% non-superwash Polwarth wool, and it is super fluffy to work with. It almost feels like unspun yarn, and the contrast color is amazing. I love this color. It is called City Lights, and yeah, that's pretty much, there's literally every 3 stitches a different color, so it makes knitting this project really fun because it changes constantly, like a kaleidoscope, I think, and this sweater is just going to be so cozy. I love fisherman's rib. I've knit, this is my third fisherman's rib project, and I think I need more of this in my life. Karina still has EXP kits on her website, and I've linked to that below. In fact, I forgot to mention that everything I have mentioned that I talk about will be, you'll have links to it below. You just click more and more, and you should be able to come to the section where you have linked items. Anyway, that is the EXP sweater. That's all I wanted to say about that. The final WIP that I want to talk to you about today is linked back to the Love Local cow that we're running and the theme of the month, which is Patterns by Amber O'Brien. And in particular, I am knitting a Dreamy Valentine shawl. And here it is. It's my little, it's very tiny. I have hardly anything started on it. I think that's the bottom of the first heart in the lace pattern. But this project is also special to me because I'm knitting it in what's called calling wool. And that is a yarn that is spun from the fleeces of the sheep at the Collingwood Children's Farm in Melbourne. One of the inner city suburbs is called Collingwood, and there is a block of land sort of to the east, far east of Collingwood, where there's an urban farm, and they grow food there. They keep some animals, including sheep. They do a lot with the community in terms of education, as well as programs that support vulnerable people, including those with disabilities. They've had programs for women who are in domestic violence relationships or coming out of them. And there's a program for the preservation of bees or the promotion of bees and beekeeping. There, I'm sure I'm forgetting a number of the programs that they have there. But one of the things that I help them to do is to create this yarn, and it's really special. This shawl will be raffled off at the farm's winter solstice bonfire night. And yes, I'm getting a start on it now, which will be really, I think this is going to be a really fun knit. I haven't knit a lot of lace lately, or really since I've made this shawl, and I'm looking forward to it. It's got a beautiful rhythm to it, and doesn't seem to be too difficult currently. And I also think that knitting lace really teaches you to read your knitting, which is a fantastic skill to develop. Yes, it's the start of my little Dreamy Valentine. And make sure that you are knitting some Amber O'Brien patterns this month for the Cal and a Cal entry. And I think there's still a discount for Amber's patterns if you just check that out on Instagram. Fantastic. Well, that's it for the WIPs. So if you are, if those are your jam, then thanks for staying with me while I went on about my projects. And I'm now going to talk about some acquisitions and future knitting plans. So stick around if you want that content. In December, and I haven't had one of these, I realized I've just been interviewing up a storm. But in December, I had a wonderful visit from my friend Allie, who is a podcaster over on Fiberbound. I'm sure you follow her. And well, let me back up a step, because the two acquisitions I'm going to talk about relate to the same dyer. Anyway, when Allie came to visit, she brought over, for me, a beautiful skein of its well-strung yarn by Jamo, who is one of the owners of Skein Machine. And this is just a beautiful variegated color. I love it. I love all the pinks. These are just absolutely my colors. And oh, here's another thing you could put in the comments for me. A one skein shawl. What is your favorite one skein shawl project? I would love to know, because I think this needs to be a one skein shawl. There's 425 meters in the 100 grams, so it's really generous yardage and will go a long way, I think, for a nice shawl project. So hit me up what you think the best one skein shawls would be for this yarn. The other, so what's this colorway? Does it say? Something flamingo, I can't read that. Latulent flamingo is the colorway, but yes, beautiful yarn. Now, Skein Machine and Jamo also came to my attention because I won their Instagram giveaway. Yay! So they sent me this beautiful merino 8-ply, and the colorway is crisscross applesauce. I love it. Look at this. It's these beautiful greens and golds and rusts. And I think this is going to become a beanie for my husband. These are really his, he looks quite good in these more autumnal tones. And I bought some dark green mohair to hold with it, so I can get a bit of a squishier texture for his hat. I wanted to talk about these two acquisitions in particular because they both relate back to Skein Machine, which is a new yarn shop over in South Australia. And I just wanted to give them a shout out since they're new. And yeah, I think they do incredible dyeing of these variegated colors, and I really can't wait to knit for them. One last acquisition to share with you is, and I guess it's a little bit of a life update as well. We have some relatives who have announced that they are expecting again their first baby, which is super exciting. And it was also exciting for me because I'm going to start knitting another baby blanket, and I was kindly gifted by Deborah Kinsey her the new pattern for her poly blanket, which is beautiful. And the yarn that was used in the original sample was what's called Scuttlebutt. It's an 8-ply yarn that's 80% Perendale and 20% black merino that's dyed up by Katrina over at Pirate Pearl Yarns. So I couldn't resist and I had to order some. And I've come up with, Katrina has some kits of colors that she's put together. And I do love the kits, but I went rogue and picked out my own colors. So I'm going with main color of oat. Yep, it's 210 meters per 100 grams. So 800 grams. I have 2 skeins of oat, and then you need 100 grams of each of the other 3 colors in the blanket. And I've gone for, of course, one of my favorite colors. This one's called Crushed Violets. And then I've gone for this beautiful brown. It's called Brown Stone. And then this is the color that did it for me. Katrina was helping me do some selections and sent me this. And I've just fallen in love with this color. It's called My Lover's Eyes. And it's the most beautiful blue. But it's a teal blue. So there's quite a bit of green in it. I love it. And I love these three colors together. I hope they're not blowing out so much. I'm getting a lot of light in the window. Anyway, the poly blanket will be cast on as soon as I finish with my EXP sweater for Karina. Yeah, there's one final thing I forgot to mention, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but that's the Bendigo project. I'm so excited for the release of these patterns. It will just be a few more weeks now, and there'll be so many options for you to knit, and I can't wait to get started on them. And we'll be taking some pictures, I think, at the Australian Sheep and Wool Show in July. So I hope you can make it and join in the fun and join in the knitting in community aspect of it. Even if you won't be attending the show, the patterns are really fun. I've had the pleasure and the privilege of editing a few of them, so I know what they are already, and I cannot wait for you to see them. If you want a sneak peek of one of them, you can go back to my episode with Vera Marcoux that aired a couple of weeks ago and see one of the projects already. I think that's it. That's all I really wanted to share with you today, and I'll be back in another few weeks with a video that I think you will really enjoy. It's a slightly different format, but it's meant to be really interesting and educational, and we'll see how you like it. I'm excited about it, so I hope you will like it too. But until then, thanks so much for joining me today and spending time with me. I hope I was able to keep you company during your knitting or your craft. And until next time, happy knitting!